¿Qué tal, gente? Bienvenido de vuelta al episodio de hoy de Emprendementes. Antes de comenzar, por favor, síganos en nuestro canal. Estamos como Emprendementes en YouTube, en Instagram estamos como Los Emprendementes, en TikTok estamos como Brian Emprendementes. Sigan y compartan el contenido de nosotros y también sigan y compartan el contenido de nuestros patrocinadores, Altos del María, BAC y Más Móvil Negocio, que hacen esto posible, que nos apoyan en este proyecto para seguir contando las historias de los empresarios y emprendedores aquí en Panamá. Y también sigan y compartan el contenido de nuestro invitado del día de hoy. Yo, para los que me conocen, yo no nací en Panamá. Yo nací en los Estados Unidos y mi primer idioma fue inglés. Y entonces hoy por primera vez vamos a hacer un podcast en inglés, porque el invitado del día de hoy, a pesar que parece latino, no es de aquí, es de los Estados Unidos y es el señor Brian Winzereid. Y él es el de Gamboa Bakery. Él y, bueno, su socio está aquí al lado también. So, before we started, we were talking off camera, and you were telling me where you were from and how you got started doing this bakery. But from where you were from and from the bakery, it's a long story. So tell me more or less where you're from, or tell everybody where you're from and how you started doing what you were doing and what you were doing before you were doing bakery and how you got here to Panama as well.
Yeah.
Can you talk close to the microphone?
Yeah, no problem. So basically it kind of goes back to high school days, really. So in high school, I started dating this woman who owned this bakery, or I should say girl at the time. We were 17, 18. And her parents had this bakery. And I was working in the bakery. It's called Stella's Bakery. And after high school, I didn't really know what I was going to do with my life. And I decided to start a male modeling career. And that career took me to South Beach. So I left Madison, Wisconsin, went to South Beach, started modeling in South Beach, and then landed a pretty big job for Calvin Klein, which took me to New York City. Ended up shooting with Kate Moss for Calvin Klein.
Wow.
Yeah. And
the same shoot and everything?
Yeah.
Oh, you got pictures with Kate Moss?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So did a job for Calvin Klein, and then ended up staying in New York City, and was a male model in New York City for 10 years. And after 10 years, as a male model, you're kind of like an athlete. You have a shelf life. After I realized that my shelf life was almost expired, I, at that point in time, wasn't quite sure what my next move was going to be. Her parents still had this bakery in Madison, Wisconsin, and they asked us if we wanted to take over the family business.
You were both living in New York at the time?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I knew that I wanted to be my own boss. I liked that idea. So we said, yeah. But I figured it would probably be a good idea for me to learn a little bit about baking before taking over bakery. Mm-hmm. So at that point in time, I enrolled in the French Culinary Institute in New York City, and went through the bread baking program. Then after that, did some internships, worked at a couple bakeries in New York City, and then we packed up our one bedroom and moved back to Madison, Wisconsin, and took over the family business.
And what were your girlfriends, wives, or parents doing after you all took the business?
They basically,
they retired.
But when you have a family business, you never really step away.
Mm-hmm.
So they were always kind of there in the kitchen, popping in, checking in to see if we were doing things correctly.
Okay.
So we took over the bakery. It was called Stella's Bakery in Madison, and ended up running it for 12 years.
Wow.
During that course of time, I also had 3 kids, and so there were a lot of stresses on the relationship at that point in time, and we decided we were going to split. And she basically came to the point where she said, "Hey, I'm tired of the cold. I'm tired of Wisconsin. I want to move to Panama." Her mom's Panamanian. I want to move to Panama. I found this great place in Gamboa, Panama. And so I was like, all right, if you want to do this, let's go. So we sold our bakery, and we moved to Gamboa. And I moved right before the pandemic. I didn't know a single person. Didn't speak.
What month did you get here on 20?
It was February 3rd.
Okay.
of 2020.
And I mean, pandemic hadn't exploded at
that
the
was
time.
March. I think it was. Middle March.
So you got here, and then what was the plan?
There was no plan.
The plan was to be with your kids.
My plan was to be with my kids.
Okay.
That's it. And I thought, well, what I could do is I could, spend a couple months here, go back to Wisconsin, get back into modeling, kind of, figure it out as I go. And then pandemic hit. Panama shut their borders down, and we were out in Gamboa, just sort of riding out the storm, if you want to call it that. And during that time period, as a way of escaping CNN and the news and the hysteria that was going on in the world, I started baking bread for my kids, and which turned into giving a couple breads to my neighbors. And then other neighbors started to hear about this. And then before I knew it, I was baking bread for almost most of the people in Gamboa.
How many loaves of bread were you doing at the small scale that you started?
So I was baking out of it was an Airbnb. It was a basic kitchen oven. I was doing close to 30 about 30 loaves of bread every other day, which required me to wake up at 1 a.m. and bake until like 4 p.m.
Wow.
Yeah, because I can only bake 2 breads at a time out of this little kitchen oven.
Okay.
Yeah. So I realized that this was it wasn't sustainable. And I was living on top of this little garage at the time. And I thought to myself,
you were living there by yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
And my kids were I was splitting the time with
their mom.
She was right on the corner.
Okay.
Yeah. So, so then I thought to myself, I think I could get this, an oven that would help production. And so I shipped an oven from Chicago down to Gamboa and turned this little garage into a micro bakery.
Wow.
And started baking. And it was during that time period when my business partner, Carlos, who was a neighbor in Gamboa, was walking his dog, and he saw me. And
Carlo was first a client, I guess.
Client.
He had tasted the bread.
I think I probably gave him a couple loaves.
Okay.
He would walk by every morning, and one morning he just poked his head in and was very curious about what we were doing or what I was doing. And he offered me his services. He's like, "Hey, I'd love to bake. Is there any way I can learn?" And I said, "Yeah, you want to show up tomorrow at 2 a.m.? Let's go." So he did. He showed up the following day. And after that, I realized that he was becoming super talented and really helpful. So it became a regular thing. He was, I guess you quote unquote call him, he was like my first employee.
Okay.
And it was him and I. We started baking bread for the neighborhood, and then we started doing home deliveries into the city. And then we started a pizza night for the community in Gamboa, and that did really well. And then people from Panama City started to hear about the fact that we were doing these pizzas, but they wanted us to offer pizza Saturday and Sunday because they didn't want to deal with the traffic. So we, changed our schedule to Saturday and Sunday, and then it just got very busy.
How busy did it get? How many pizzas were you selling?
We had about 300. I think one time we calculated about 350 people coming in on a Saturday, and another 300 to 400 on a Sunday.
Jesus.
To my little garage.
And Gamboa doesn't have like wide streets, so I could see why.
Yeah, parking was an issue, noise was an issue, trash was an issue. My neighbors definitely. We had a neighborhood meeting. They were like, "Brian, we need to sit down and talk to you about what's going on here because we didn't realize
getting out of control."
It was out of control. It was like every weekend. They're trying to enjoy their time off, their weekends, and now they got to deal with a crowd of people walking through there.
People that live in Gamboa usually live in Gamboa because they don't want to deal with people. That's the thing. La gente que vive en Gamboa viven allá porque ellos allá no quieren saber de nadie. O sea, ellos se aíslan, ¿no? So at some point you said, okay, so we have to move out.
Well, no, it wasn't up to if it was my decision, we would continue
still
to do
be
it.
there?
Yeah. But my neighbors brought it to my attention. Hey, we love what you've done. This is great, but it's getting crazy. It's getting busy. And then really what it was my landlord. Mind you, I'm still an Airbnb you know,
Yeah,
tenants.
yeah.
My landlord basically said, all right, you can't do this anymore. You can continue to live here, but no more of this baking project.
Okay.
We didn't have any license or anything. We were just doing everything, whatever.
You were just baking bread.
Just go. So she called me on a Wednesday and said, this is your last weekend. And then, you know, which came as a shock because I didn't really see that coming. So I had a conversation with Carlos, and we basically said, what do we want to do? Like, we started something, seems like it's going somewhere. Are we done? You know, I needed to figure out what I was going to do because I wasn't going to leave Panama. So we decided, we're like, all right, let's find a new location and let's take this and go with it. So we started driving around Panama City looking for a location. Didn't really see anything. But one day we were driving in Clayton and Ciudad del Saber. There was this really interesting building. It had a kids culture center in it, Lunario. But I loved it because it had this big iron gate that you could roll back to have like this indoor-outdoor experience. And so we found out that it was available, and we signed the lease. And I then at that point in time moved back to Madison for 8 months to raise capital for the project.
So you went back to work.
I went back to Madison, Wisconsin, and moved in with my mom, lived in her basement for 8 months, and called every single person I possibly could think of to raise the capital to build out the space.
How much did you need?
$450,000.
450 to get it where
Well, this is the thing, and as business owners can probably relate to this, is you do your numbers and then you think this is what you need, and then you get into it and you realize, no, we actually need 300,000. Oh, actually we need 350. Oh, actually so the prices was constantly increasing, and we thought we could do it for 3. And like halfway through the build, we realized, no, man, we need 450.
Wow.
So I'm in Wisconsin calling Carlos. Carlos, how much do we need? We need 350. We got this. I'm like, all right. So I'm calling everybody. We reach our goal, and then we find out we need 400. So it was a very bittersweet moment because I felt like, oh, I reached our goal. Oh, no, our goal just got moved. Oh, now I reached the goal. It just got moved again. So I just kept on calling, kept on knocking on doors, anybody, even random people. Actually, it was a funny story. I was at a bar one night, and I met these random people, ended up having a good conversation with them. They were interested in what I was doing. I told them what I was doing, and they said, we want to be a part of this. Let's meet for coffee. And they ended up throwing in $30K.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't even know them.
And how do you deal with having so many investors or partners? Or
you just have to be really disciplined with your spreadsheets and have an organized plan of how you're going to pay them back, and be, very...
You took loans from them, or do they have equity?
No, there's no equity.
Okay,
it's
just
all
loans.
Yeah,
okay.
Unsecured loans, essentially with a high return.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well,
we're
that's
getting into deep.
No, but that is. I mean,
yeah.
That is risk. That's the way people start doing business.
Yeah.
You first, to validate your product and to kind of put that leap of faith, there's a high interest you're going to pay. Like next time you ask a loan, then you can go to a bank and then you can get, a really cheap rate, or probably what's going to be happening is that a bunch of people are going to be throwing money at you because now they want to be a part of your project.
Yeah, proof of concept.
Of your product.
Yeah.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Let's go back to the modeling because, this whole story seems exciting, but being a male model in Miami and then in New York, and how does that go about? Because you were in this for 10 years.
Yeah.
There's usually,
I'm still doing it.
Well, you're still doing it, but I guess in New York, living there, doing it for 10 years, there's people that can hardly sit in a job for 2 years. Mm-hmm. So you were doing this for 10.
Yeah.
How did this come about, and how did you get into modeling from Wisconsin? Yeah,
so basically after high school, I, again, didn't really have any dreams or aspirations. I was a poor student, and my cousin actually was the one that suggested the idea, and I wasn't interested at all. I thought it was weird. and he kept on pushing the issue. So I ended up going to he signed me up for a modeling school. Went to this modeling school for like a month or so, and one of the teachers there pulled me aside and said, "Look, you actually have a good shot. You have a good look. You should go to Miami because ethnic people at the time, they did really well in Miami." So I just hopped in my car and drove from Wisconsin to Miami one afternoon with a buddy just to go check it out. Yeah, we just drove down there. Plan was to go down there and check into a cheap motel, stay there for 3 days, and leave. We ended up walking into like the top agencies down there, and one of the top agencies said, "We love your look. We want to sign you right now. We'll give you some money. We're gonna get you an apartment. Don't leave. Stay here." And I was like, "Well, I'm only planning on staying here for like 2 days." And they're like, "No, stay. You'll work." Like, all right. So I ended up staying. My friend flew back and didn't know anyone again, and met a couple other male models that were in the same situation I was in. And I thought to myself, I'll give it a month and a half and see what happens. And after a month of being down there, I got my first job, which was for a catalog company, and realized, wow.
How much were they? I don't know how much they pay for. How much do they?
Well, this time I
work for like.
Yeah, so I worked a half day and I got like $3,000 for a half day of work.
Wow.
Yeah, at 19 years old.
And you were just starting, so I mean, I guess as you go up, and you know that payday goes up as well.
Yeah, and basically, the more exclusive work that you do, the higher your rate becomes.
Okay, so we were talking off camera about how the modeling business is now and how it was. Yeah, and I want you to explain people, because social media has been changing the way people live, the way people vote, the way people come about having relationships with their significant other or a friend or mom or dad or whatever. So social media has done its part in modeling as of today also.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, when I started modeling, it was the Barbie and the Ken. They wanted the blonde hair, blue eye guy with a six pack. They wanted the one black guy. That was, and they all want them to look pretty similar. Now it is completely opposite. They want guys with tattoos, earrings. If you have a lot of followers, that helps on Instagram. They want personality. They want you to be able to do, whatever. If you have some sort of talent, a skill, they love that.
Wow.
Yeah.
They do that because of the leverage. They want to leverage your social media status, I guess.
Yeah, but I think they realize like people are tired of they were tired of that.
They want something cutter,
new. Yeah, the cookie cutter. They want something interesting and different. Something that's
no authenticity on it.
Yeah, they want real people. Now it's all about just being real. They don't want the. I mean, obviously there's always room for the six pack, but but now they're a lot more open. I got in it right when Tyson Bedford was hitting it big. He really opened the doors for a lot of us. He was like the first black supermodel, and then after that, people were like, okay, we can use black people.
He has like Panamanian roots or something.
Jamaican? Yeah, I think it's Jamaican, but Panamanian, Jamaican, we're all the same, right?
Okay. So then I guess at some point some of these calls just, started to, wind down, and then you moved back to Wisconsin, came back to Panama. How's living in the States and living in Panama are not the same at all. Like the culture shock is big, even though you have a lot of stuff you see in the States here, with restaurant chains, and, people are very kind of, Americanized here, and they're open to Americans, but the quality of life is different. The way of life is different. The culture is different. How has that been being here and then starting up a business as well? Because starting up a business in the States may be a little, complicated at some times, but doing it here is even more complicated when you don't know the language.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thankfully, I grew up going to Jamaica a lot. We had property in Jamaica. So as a child, I went to school in Jamaica. So, I was exposed to a different type of way of doing things and different type of lifestyle and more of a relaxed lifestyle. So, yeah, I mean, being down here, honestly, I have to say that this whole project has just been one of those things in my life where things have just happened at the right time, meeting the right people at the right time. I mean, without Carlos, there's no way I could get anything done. Without some of my other employees, the team, because again, my Spanish is so bad. So I have to rely on people that I trust to come alongside and help. There's no way this is at all a thing that I've created, or it's not about me. It's just about bringing special people together and kind of painting the vision and finding people that are like, yeah, I want to do this. So I have really, honestly, it's been, getting the permits I'd rather go to the dentist every day than go through the permit process again. That was a headache. We were building during the protests with the mineral company. Uh-huh. So we were having a tough time staying on calendar, staying on track because people weren't showing up. But we just hung in there, just waited it out, patience.
When did you open in Clayton?
That was April 6th.
Okay.
So not too
so
long.
You have like 2-3 months.
Yeah, 4 months or ish, somewhere in there.
And you closed in Gamboa last year.
Yeah, we closed. I can't exactly remember when we closed.
So when you opened up 2-3 months ago, how was that? Were people just flocking in like, oh my God, these guys are back?
I don't think I would have done this project if I knew that I was going to work as hard as I did in the last 3 months. It was insane. I worked multiple 27-hour shifts straight.
Wow.
And it's just like there's no break. I mean, there was times when
what you were doing, what you were building as well.
It was dealing with people, a lot of people coming. So, which was great. I love the fact that we created this anticipation. People were always like, wherever we'd walk, people were like, hey, when are you guys opening? When are you guys opening? So when we didn't even tell people we were open. We just opened one day and we're kind of like, all right, let's just.
People were just snooping in like, oh, y'all got bread.
Yeah. So we just opened, but then social media in this day and age, word spreads fast, and within after a week of being open, it just was like a lot of people started coming, and no one was trained. So I had 1,000 croissants to produce by myself for tomorrow, and it was insane. I mean, just constant work, and then at the same time trying to train people.
Okay, how many employees do you have?
Right now, close to 30.
30 employees?
They're not all working at the same time. But almost like 28, I think.
Wow.
Somewhere in that.
That's a big payroll.
It's a big payroll. Yeah.
How do you? I guess baking is different in people's taste. I guess. Mm-hmm. How does that differ from the bread or the baking you were doing in the States to what you're doing here? Is it the same, or do you have to twitch the recipes a little bit?
Baking in Panama is thank God I spend a lot of time tweaking my formulas out in Gamboa, because the humidity level here in Panama messes every single formula. So all of the recipes that I was using in Wisconsin, I had to change the hydration, the water. Mm-hmm. That was a big thing. Getting access to quality ingredients down here has been at times challenging. But other than that, it hasn't been, we have air conditioning now, which that's great because it keeps everything cool. Our problem the challenge here in Panama is keeping things cool, because things, when you're dealing with yeast in a moist environment that's warm, yeast, they love that. So, we've adapted right now. We're doing. I feel like our product is on point. It's great. There are times where we have to make some changes, but overall, it's not that big of an issue anymore.
Okay. How many people can you get in the rest? I mean, at the bakery right now, because I've seen your social media going on, and that it's a lot of people there that go there.
Yeah, we're almost at 50 seats inside. We're building a deck on the back so our concept is we're an artisan bakery and a pizzeria, like an artisan pizzeria.
Are you doing pizzas right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're doing Neapolitan style pizzas. We bought this gorgeous oven, Neapolitan style oven.
I saw it.
It's beautiful. It's amazing.
It says Gamboa.
Yeah, It's great. That was a story in itself, man.
Why?
Well, it came damaged, huge. Someone hit it with a forklift when it was delivered. When it was delivered, man, it came. We were so excited. It was like
banged it
Christmas morning. Yeah, we were Christmas morning. This big truck comes, drops off this massive oven. It's wrapped in saran wrap. We go to unwrap the gift, and as I'm cutting it, all of these pieces of tile are falling on the floor. And as I'm cutting, I'm realizing something major has happened to this oven. We unwrap it. Sure enough, massive, huge hole in the side of the oven. And I went home and cried for 4 days.
How did you fix it?
We called the company and told them what happened. They sent a technician, and within a month, he came down, ripped it apart, sealed it, remolded it, put the tile back on. You can't even tell it's damaged. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Customer service.
Did you buy that one in Chicago?
New York City.
Oh, New York?
Yeah. I did some research trying to find the best ovens and Firo is one of the best ovens you can buy.
Okay.
It's a beautiful oven.
Can you explain people how the bread making process is? Because you say, and well, I know because I've heard it before, but when people bake bread, they're practically like chemists.
Yeah.
And they have to wake up really early because that has a time, and then it has to be like a simmering process or whatever it's called, and then it goes into, I guess the oven is just like the final part.
It is.
It's just like basically the heavy lifting is done before it gets into the oven. So can you explain to people how hard and complicated this can get?
So my days start at 1:45 in the morning. My alarm clock goes off. I get to the bakery. Thank God I live a 2-minute walk from my bakery. So I get to the bakery at 2 a.m. I'll get there and I'll have all of my breads for the day already pre-measured. So all I got to do is just dump the water, pour the water into the bowl, and then just dump the bin into the mixing bowl. So I start my mixes at 2 a.m. It takes about roughly around 2 hours for the dough to ferment. After that, we start shaping. It's like 5 in the morning. After we're done shaping, it rests for another 45 minutes. And then at that point in time, it goes in the oven, which is around like 6:30, 7, comes out of the oven. Half an hour later, it's done. After I finish off all the baking, then we prep everything for the following day. So, and then thank God again, I have about 5 bakers now that are trained where I can delegate work, their work to them. So I can go home. I'll sleep for like 2 hours.
What time do you go home?
I'll go home like around 10 or 11 a.m. and sleep for a couple hours, then come back to the bakery, kind of be there for like the lunch rush, kind of, help out if I can. And then I'll be there until like 4 p.m. sometimes, depending if they need help. Just with, because then we start lamination. That's a whole nother thing.
What's lamination?
Lamination is all of our pastries are laminated.
Okay, like the croissant?
Yep, anything that's got layers to it is what we call lamination. And that has to happen in a very cold environment. So after the ovens are done, around 11 a.m., we turn everything off. And then around 1 a.m., we cool the kitchen down, turn on the air conditioning, get it cold, so that we can work with the butter. So it's very important for the butter to not melt when you're laminating, because the butter can melt very fast, especially down here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all of this is like it's just a whole process that anything can go wrong real fast, and then it just
Oh,
ruins.
It is.
Ruins the batch, I guess. I don't know how you
There's so many things that happen. There's probably thousands of things that need to happen perfect in order for
it to be good.
And there's always something that happens. Even if you show up 15 minutes late, that has an effect. Because then it throws off the timing. So my production schedule is like a LaGuardia flight like timetable. It's every half an hour, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. And if this doesn't happen, it has a domino effect on everything.
And you do sourdough too?
We do, yeah.
That's even more complicated, right?
It is. It's more complicated. It's yeah. I mean, it's not super complicated. I'm actually going to be flying a baker down, he was up for a James Beard Award. He's like an amazing baker. He's going to come down and just help me fine tune my sourdough recipe before I unveil it.
Oh, okay. So you're not.
We're doing. So sourdough is something that we use in a lot of different breads right now. But I don't have I'm not making a traditional sourdough.
Okay.
Like I'm making a multigrain that has 20% sour in it. I'm making a cranberry walnut that's got a little bit of sour in it.
But not the whole loaf.
But not the whole thing. You're not gonna if you were to eat a cranberry walnut bread, you wouldn't be blown away by sour flavor.
Okay. Sourdough es masa madre, gente. Eso es sourdough. And then what's the piece of bread or bakery or that pastry that people go there like, oh, what, we need this. Like,
I mean, right now, believe it or not, it's just the good old fashioned cinnamon roll. That's our number one seller. Our blueberry coffee cake is another one that's up there. Our butter croissants are very top seller. And then of course our hot and spicy cheese bread. People are waking up to that, which is that thing is like crack cocaine.
Wow.
It's very good. And we make it every day hot out of the oven. It's got a 1/4 pound of cheese baked inside. It's kind of a sweet bread with chives, parsley, and crushed red pepper. I've been around it now for 25 years, and I still will eat a full loaf
every now and then.
Every now and then.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for coming over here and talking about your experience. And para los que no están viendo y escucharon el podcast, yo quiero decirles que la historia de Brian es impresionante porque es una historia que no ha sido en línea recta. Una historia que ha tenido muchos altos y bajos en el sentido de que él se ha visto en situaciones donde ha tenido que llegar a un lugar y no conoce a nadie, pero tiene que ver qué hace. Y el qué hace lo lleva a aprender cosas nuevas, como hacer dulces. Y entonces esos dulces lo hace hacer entonces un negocio, y entonces ese negocio ahora lo hace ser un empresario aquí en Panamá que tiene probablemente la panadería o dulcería más grande que hay ahora. No sé si más grande, pero definitivamente la más popular, ¿no? Todo el mundo quiere ir allá y todo el mundo habla de ella porque el producto es bueno. I want to thank you for coming, Brian, and just being here, telling us your story, telling us how you started this. And one last question: how did you get to the logo? Did you do it yourself, or did you get some help?
That logo is ripped from the sign when you're entering Gamboa.
Okay.
That's the same font. I just took it and bent it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for. I would have never imagined it, but thanks for coming. Thanks for telling us how. Visiten Gamboa Bakery, está en Clayton, sigan sus redes sociales, está como Gamboa Bakery. También sigan las redes sociales de Brian. Yo creo que cualquier, pregunta que tengan hay mucho modelo aquí en Panamá, hay gente que quiere modelar, aquí tenemos un modelo profesional, a lo mejor le pueden preguntar un par de cosas. Y también vayan y visítenlo, ¿no? Y'all doing deliveries?
Not right now.
Not right now.
We might be working with a third party shortly.
Okay. Bueno, no hay delivery ahora mismo, pero igual sigan las redes sociales porque por ahí viene. Thanks for coming, Brian.
Pleasure.
All
Thank you.